Good morning, everybody. John Sfiocla here for GAI Insights, bringing you the top news, essential, important, or optional. Putting thoughts in your head and time in your day. We got some interesting stuff here, everything from new robotic optimizations through great new capabilities or research on the adoption of generative AI in organizations. All right, Ankash, if you could start us off with the first article, please.
Sure. Thanks, Sean. So the first one that we have for today comes from Microsoft GitHub Copilot, and it talks about how Copilot is giving developers a choice to experiment with Anthropic, Google's, and OpenAI's open preview.
All right, I think this is Adam. Are you up on this one?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our listeners. Appreciate you being here as always. So as Ankash has mentioned, there's a couple of pieces of news actually today. One is that GitHub now offers multi-model, right? So you can choose between Sonnet, Gemini, or OpenAI's O1 preview, which is one really nice thing. Also at the bottom of this article, it talks about a new thing they have called Sparks, or GitHub Spark, which is essentially equivalent to like Cursor or what Replic's doing, where you can write code in natural language and it will make apps for you, functional apps. So there's a couple pieces of cool news. None of this is actually available yet. So it is just product announcement at this point. It's paving the way, but I feel like in some ways Microsoft has been forced by the competition that's out there, offering people the choice as a developer in terms of which model they want to use. So in some ways, it seems like to me it's reactionary, and they're trying to keep up with the competition. So I was on the fence, but I was leaning towards optional news, especially since it's not yet available.
All right, Luda, Paul, what do you guys think?
Well, you're right, it's not yet available, but it is major news confirming the trend that either through the switch or what have you, you will have a choice of different models. And this is coming up, and they might not announce it when it's available. So my thinking was put an important on it to just be aware that this is a trend and this is happening.
All right, Paul, you ready to
John,
play salt?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think this is another step of Microsoft continue to distance itself from OpenAI. I think the second is this a continuation of, I think, Microsoft learning from the Netscape wars that going all hog wild in their own stuff and telling the world go pound sand is not nearly as lucrative as saying we're the trusted intermediary. Use use a handful of models you want to in Azure, and now use a handful of models in GitHub here. So I agree though with it's not available, and it's optional in my mind.
Okay.
All right, Ankash, were you going to say something?
yes, John. Just wanted to reiterate what Paul mentioned, and also point around Cursor here, the Spark product that they have launched. So Cursor has Claude 3.5 Sonnet as the background model that they are using. So that's the reason for its effectiveness, and I think that's coming to GitHub Copilot now might improve a lot of things for Copilot as well.
So where do you land? Important or optional?
I think for me it's important, John, because of the trend of Microsoft shifting away from OpenAI. So we have seen this in the Azure part as well, where now they have given access to Mistral models and Llama as well. And then now the GitHub Copilot as well. Maybe soon the Microsoft Copilot itself will have more underlying choice for people to select their choice of sort of model.
All right, let's go for a little bit of market overhang here.
Sorry,
I'm going to put this important.
Sorry, go ahead. Just one point of clarification. Cursor does offer GPT-4o Mini, O1 preview, and other models as well.
Let's just say you have choice with that as well. All right, let's give this an important. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Ramp, and it talks about the rise of AI multi-homing.
Yeah, it's so interesting, this ability of Ramp as a a small business credit card to track use of these different models based on their charging behavior. I was going to give this one an important. I thought it was interesting to see Anthropic, gaining ground here and increased use by organizations. If you look at the, foundation model spending, small to medium-sized businesses really adopting. So this is a lovely chart here. It shows how, GPT for Omni has taken share from GPT-4. At the same time, you see Anthropic starting to gain ground. So anyway, I thought this was an interesting, set of stats to really show what I like about it is it shows the models in use. So I was going to give it an important. What do you folks think?
I'm absolutely important here. I mean, we spent a lot of time internally on the buyer's guide and clarifying everything we're hearing. And I think this is a great actual data point on budget mix changing. And we continue to be, John and I and others continue to be with a lot of executives who are still, oh, the whole world's open AI. And the reality is that the people who are in production are significantly changing their mix from large to small, from away from OpenAI, and this is a great case study. So I had it as important.
Yeah, I had it as important also because they highlight this particular chart, right? Highlight the various other pieces of software that people are using and quarter to quarter monitor their increase in growth. And that's also important. So the underlying model selection is important, but then there is other software that is coming to be the leader in their specific field. So that I rate it as important as well.
All right, in the pregame, you're on the fence here, Adam. To get you over into the important channel.
Yeah, I definitely do, especially as I was looking through it again. Like I've never even heard of Super Maven, for example, or Redis. And what is parallels with a 715% increase in card customer count, right? Quarter over quarter. It definitely, if nothing else, just to be aware of some of the other things going on in the landscape. But you make really good points about the mindset still being that OpenAI has all of the market share, and the data is telling us something very different.
All right, Ankash, you good with important here?
Done.
All righty, important it is. Next, please.
Okay, the next one here comes from OpenAI and Decagon. So they have created a high performance, fully automated customer support at scale.
All right, I know that Adam, you're going to be first up on this one, but I feel a Barney coming on from Paul. What's up?
I think it's mine, John. I rated it as
Sorry,
optional.
Luda.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I rated it as optional because it's a use case where Decagon automated this particular area, like the support from sales support, and they claim that they more than 90% they do automatic requests from customers handle automatically. So this is great. They talk about fine tuning to the specific open AI model that is good for a particular task. So this is also good, but it's a very narrow case and yeah, very limited applicability, I think. So optional.
All right. Paul, did I guess right?
Barney's here, live and well. I keep wanting getting rid of Barney, but we keep having Barney announcements. So
the only case I could make for important, I actually had it as optional as well, is I haven't heard of Decagon, right? And Duolingo, Eventbrite, Notion, and Substack are all using them, right? There's something going on here that's worth paying attention to, I would say. Although I also feel like it's just another use case, a very compelling one, but another example of what we already know is happening.
All right, Ankash, you go with that?
Yes, Sean.
All right, optional it is. Next, please.
Okay, the next one is a report on navigating GenAI's early years from AI at Wharton.
All right, in the pregame, Adam is busy trashing academia and consultants as usual. Going for the optional. What do you think here, Adam?
Yeah, thanks, John. It had some decent data. It was, I think, 800 respondents. The criteria very much being, let's see, that they work for a commercial organization, the private sector. They're a senior decision maker in IT, HR, business intelligence, etc. 15-minute quantitative survey. They have some decent data. I just felt like it didn't offer much that we weren't already finding from other surveys, and it's already 4 months old. So the landscape changes so quickly. I just felt like there wasn't really much to take away from it that we hadn't seen already.
What do you think, Luda, Paul?
Well, I actually think that this is important. The way that report is done is very easy to understand and quick. So you can scroll this report in a couple of minutes and pick the main takeaways. It's very well done from that perspective. One of the authors was at our conference, Mary Burke, and at Women in AI Breakfast. So I feel affiliated here, a little bit of conflict of interest, I guess. But I thought that the report is well done. If you need a back pocket report of data of how well the AI is scaling, this is a good one too. So I rated it as important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to make the case for essential because I hear you, Adam. There's some other things that we've read from McKinsey and so forth. I thought this is pretty good. I mean, if you read, the actual questions, it is a little bit promotional in the sense that, they talk about, if something is being used in a department or intended use in the next year. So that's, I'd rather see the split between those things, between, intended use and whatever. I mean, so we've got self-report, intent. That's not what you call bedrock science, right? But at the same time, it's got decent set of categorizations and so forth, and easy to understand, as you said, Luda. I don't know, Paul, where are you on this thing?
Yeah, and I'm clearly unimportant here. I mean, I think from AI leader who's moving into budget season, one of the things that we continue to see is some of the work John and I are doing is an upcoming explosion in token consumption of these companies here. And I think one data point is this one, which is a longitudinal study, looks at how many hours a week one person was and went back and asked the same person. And that's up 50% in a year. And I think that's certainly representative of what we're seeing in ourselves in our tiny little company here. And I think when you start talking about IBM doing 1 billion tokens a day through customer service and a handful of things, they're going to be doing a lot more next year. So I had definitely important here, and I think it floats with essential if we're trying to figure out budget allocations for next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I support essential.
All right, Ankash, we're heading for essential. Gonna have Ajita or heartburn over that?
No, John.
How about
Alrighty.
Adam? Adam is essential.
And if you are, John doesn't care.
No, he already gave us his opinion. All right. So we're heading for essential. Hey, one thing, Ashish was saying back on the customer service one, we've got, he was actually arguing for a higher rating because of there aren't that many at scale scenarios. It's an interesting point. I think we're going to leave it optional, but thanks, Ashish, we'll take that into account as we go forward. All right, next. Okay.
This next one is a research paper which talks about model equality testing. So which model is this API serving? So they compare different types of API serving different kinds of models and how there is a differentiation or a difference in terms of performance amongst different APIs.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, at how vendors, mess with stuff. There's some great work out of Harvard Business School that looked at how Google messes with your ad placements and everything and charges you. And there we have people kind of baiting and switching in terms of which model they're actually getting. Let's see, we had, I don't know, we've got me and Paul on this one.
Paul,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to give it an optional. I thought it was kind of cool in terms of the way they're doing it, where they're looking at, they're taking the original model and then taking the API call and seeing if you're getting similar weights and answers. But I thought it was optional in terms of our AI leader. I could be convinced important to actually, it's the beginning of what I'm sure will be a bunch of semantic audits about how, if you're buying anything from the cloud, what you're actually getting from the vendors, because these models certainly give, especially with these multiple models, large, small, and and quantized and tuned models, it's going to give the vendors all kinds of degrees of freedom to mess with clients if they want to decrease their cost. So I think this could be a big field, but I was going to give it optional for now. I don't know, where are you on this, Paul?
Optional, definitely optional.
Let me try to make a case for important. Just a notion. See, when in software development, when you say API, you're calling a piece of software just through an API. So nobody ever assumes that somebody mucked around with the software that you're calling and give you a less quality result as a result, right? So developers are probably aware, but I'm not so sure. So if I was calling these, I would think that I'm calling the Llama 3.1, but I'm not. So this is pretty important to highlight that. Just be careful, not that they necessarily need to employ this particular method, but there are other ways to see whether the API is the API to the software. So I think it's an important topic.
John, just to
Yes.
add on to that, there might be a degradation in performance of the apps which are using these APIs if the API sort of distribution changes without telling the user itself.
Correct. And it's almost like, feels like essential as a topic, right? And they highlighted it and they give data to say, look, it's true. It's not only our assumption, we checked it and it's true. And look down, go down. Look at that little chart where Perplexity and Grok and whatnot are not here, if you can enlarge it. See, this is pretty bad. It's degradation in performance that we should expect, but we do not.
Fascinating. You're telling me that these technology companies aren't always above board? Oh my God. The it's like in a bar, drinking happening. Oh my goodness.
No, but this is, I mean, yeah, I'm a software developer. I wouldn't expect this, and I guess if I think about it, I would, but didn't.
Maybe a better analogy, because we're talking about model numbers here, right, John? Would
Sure.
say if you bought a Mazda 3 and I bought a Mazda 3, we both expect to be getting the same car, right? I'll play the devil's advocate.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm reminded
they're
of
all
the
saying they're using Llama 3, but if you decide you're going to move from one model to another, your whole workflow might change because you're not getting the same results out of it.
Yeah, and as Ankash was saying, the results, it's they also talk about model drifting here. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like any of the flow manufacturing folks that deal with energy, oil or corn and so forth, and all the gradations. And if you change the quality of the corn, or the quality of the oil coming through a particular manufacturing process, you get a very different result, right? And that's what we're talking about here. So okay, I'm headed for important. We're going to get to essential. Paul, where are you on this, Ankash?
Go ahead, Ankash.
Important is good for me, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, important.
All right, important is next.
Okay. The next one comes from MIT. So they have found a better and a faster way to train general purpose robots.
All righty. So here we have general purpose robots, the ability to the creation of a new kind of representation system. And our friends, I'm here headed to MIT later today. I'm shouting distance of CSAIL. So what do folks think? Let's see, who do we have leading us? So we had Luda.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite topics, robots. Yeah, I rated it as optional to our AI leader, but it's a very interesting knowledge representation article. So they were able to convert video and robot arm data, right, positioning and the like, into tokens of a like LLM. And so that makes it a base infrastructure, right, or base structure of representation of data to now use LLMs for robots and then train them for the general purpose tasks that usually takes a lot of doing to accomplish. So, but it's optional. It's important development for the robots, but I think it's optional for the AI leader.
Yeah, I was had the optional too. I mean, they have a paper on the technique. I don't think that you have code underneath it that you can get access yet. It was interesting. I was doing a presentation at an event for InnoLead with Scott Kirshner out in the Valley, and I met Rodney Brooks, who I hadn't met in forever, who I hadn't seen in forever. He's one of the very early guys in robotics, founder of iRobot and the Roomba and the whole routine. And I asked him this question. I said, I said, do you think the generative AI stuff is going to really have an impact in terms of robot planning? And he said no. And I just I don't understand. I didn't have much of a time to push back and ask him more, but it certainly seems to me that Gen AI is really expanding the domain for robots to deal with novel situations without massive pre-training and planning, or at least taking the amount of pre-training and planning down a lot. 20% improvement on this paper alone. Anyway, Paul, Adam, what do you guys think? Pankaj? Optional?
I'll defer to Luda. She's our robot expert.
All righty. Adam, you go with optional? We're headed for optional, Pankaj?
Yes, John.
All right, optional it is. Optional it is. Next.
Okay, the last one comes from TSMC. So TSMC's Arizona chip production yields has surpassed the Taiwan yields.
Yes, I think finally, I'm so glad the U.S. government is bringing some of this stuff back on shore, and but they're supposed to be 4% better, I think, than their folks in Taiwan. It seemed like a
Yeah.
pretty impressive thing here. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I mean it's a great news story for a couple reasons, right? There's a global shortage of the semiconductor chips that Taiwan Semiconductor is producing. So the plant coming on the U.S. is a win for everyone that's dependent on these, but also a win for the U.S. to be having them manufactured in the country. So it's a good news story in that regard. It is worth clarifying that when it says the production yield surpasses Taiwan, they're talking about what percent of what they manufacture actually at a high enough level of quality that they can use them. They're not saying that they produce more in the U.S. than they do in Taiwan. This plant, I believe, these were the first production wafers to come off, and they're just talking about what the quality of the production is, and that it's really up to standard or exceeding what they're doing in Taiwan. So we should expect that when it comes into full production, they're going to be cranking out some good quality chips. So it's great news, but it's probably optional news at this point.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. My memory of it, and it was a while ago, is that when this is all built out, I think it's still going to produce less than 20% of our primary demand. So as you say, 4% better at the margin in terms of quality of the chips, but we still are going to be massively dependent on the Taiwanese manufacturing base.
But 4% may be enough to move a profitability. I mean, that's all incremental margin if that much stuff's coming out of the factory.
Yeah. So, but it's an interesting story that they had a difficult start in Arizona, right? So they tried to get the right skilled people. They couldn't. They had to delay. But now it seems like they got it together and expand and saying that they will expand. So this is really good.
All right, so we're going to give this an optional for our AI leader, but a good news story if you want yourself feel good. Ankash, what's the toke here? Meanwhile, any announcements?
I think the only thing I want to highlight here in the Boston area, we had an AI career fair, our first citywide one yesterday, and It was a smashing success. We had 1,700 people show up. The line to get in was over 2-hour wait, and people, it went from noon till 5, Adam, and almost everyone waited at least 2 hours. And I was at the door apologizing, and they were happy. Turns out that people were doing a lot of networking in the line, so instead of a bug, it was actually a feature. And I told them next time we're going to extend it along longer and charge them for it. And the tables we had, I think it was 20 hiring firms, Dell, Wex, Red Hat, and others, and they had 4 to 5 people the entire time waiting to talk. Now, 95% of this was college students here, but boy, there are demand. And we had I talked with one person who drove 2 hours here from Amherst and then waited 2 hours to do it. So there is real demand for AI jobs. And the last thing is that the online recruiting is completely broken. The recruiters are saying that, and all the job search saying that. So I think there really is an important need like this to match the human world with the digital world.
Yeah, so interesting. Thanks, Lucinda. Yeah, Paul and Judah really made this happen.
Yeah.
It was really Paul that got it going. So, but Judah did a lot of work. So it's great well done there, Paul. Yeah, fantastic. Hey, one thing I'm here at. And for those who are curious, we're also going to have we're going to have this career fair and so forth. The ongoing relationship through the year, and certainly at our next event in next September, October. We're going to, at the end of September in Boston, we're going to have the career fair and career activities as a big part of that. One thing I will say is I'm here at a 2-day session with the 50th anniversary for the Center of Information Systems Research at MIT, which is one of the leading research institutions that looks at the impact of technology on business organizations. And I will tell you, there's a tremendous amount of interest in AI. I'm going to see their AI maturity model today. Yesterday, they've got some fantastic new research on real-time businesses, how much your business is real-time. And real-time businesses perform much better in terms of growth and profit. And I would say that one of the fantastic things about generative AI and AI is it allows you to take certain business processes, let's take like the customer service stuff we're just looking at today, and make it real-time from batch or from delayed. And I think we're going to see more and more of that driving business value. So I think it's a really essential part of many businesses' overall strategy. All right. With that, we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks everybody for coming. Bye-bye now.
Have a good day.
Akash, you still there?
We're
I think we're still